you're ready to go. We appreciate you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I got a sound check a little earlier from Sergeant Stoffelbach and yourself, so I assume everybody else can hear. I'm literally coming to you from the mountains of North Carolina tonight in Cherokee, attending the Chiefs Conference. And Chief Holtzman and I, sometimes we go together, sometimes we don't. In this instance, I'm here alone. And so today we sat through some meetings with the Metro Chiefs, and it's really unique because the first presentation I had prior to going to the Metro Chiefs meeting was involving gun violence and gun violence reduction. And we had a wonderful presentation from Winston-Salem Police Department on what they're doing. So I'll fold a little bit of that into my discussion with you all tonight. But first of all, just let me say, I am about zoomed out. I hope you all are, and I can't wait to get you all back in a room so I can see your faces and shake your hands. We all kind of feel like we've lost a little bit of that connectivity. And when Sergeant Stoffelbach asked me to do this topic tonight, and he knew it was something that was on the commission's mind, the committee rather, excuse me, mind, then I said, absolutely. That'll be an easy one for us to talk about really quick and me not hold you on Zoom for time on end. However, I long for us returning to our training room, for us returning to community centers in your various districts so that we can move the meeting around like we used to do pre-COVID. And so I guess I'm pleading to you to stay motivated. It's been really hard for me to stay motivated. And I'm just being frank with you because this is not the form that I'm used to. As I said before we started the meeting out, I'm literally coming to you from inside a closet tonight so that you could hear me. So all that being said, let me say thank you also to the members of the committee for your continued diligence, for continuing to move through in what has been an unprecedented time. It is hard to do a community relations committee when you have no relations. And it has been incumbent upon you to stay in touch with the constituents that are in your districts, the people that you're helping represent, so that we can give information back to the council. Let me also say a big shout out to the staff member, Sergeant Stoffelbach, Billy Joe, in terms of lining things up and keeping us going. Mr. Phillips, in terms of keeping us legally oriented where we need to be. Without them, we being your staff would not be able to accomplish what we do. So all of that being said, let me just kind of jump into what's on my mind when I think about gun violence. As I heard today, there are numerous agencies around the country dealing with the topic of gun violence. And you may have noticed, and it would have been hard for you not to, that 2020 was a little bit of a different year. And I have it marked on my notes that I'm talking from as an anomaly because it was such a different year. We had people staying at home. We had children not in school. We had nowhere to go, nowhere to visit, unless it was to get an essential. And I think that drove for a little while the type of crime that we saw. As an agency, coming off 2019, where we were really pleased with what we saw in our numbers. And although I'm out of town and don't have the numbers in front of me, we're using 2019 as our last base year because we saw, I don't think I could ever use the word acceptable because violence involving firearms, really any violence, is unacceptable. But we saw numbers that were within an area where we were like, okay, still got to work on it, but not totally out of control. Then 2020 came along and our numbers really rose. And I started to compare us, as did Chief Holtzman, with other agencies and other places and other states, even around the country, and realized that trend was a national trend as well. So one thing I like to tell our citizens when I have a chance to talk to them is Greenville is a microcosm of the rest of the nation, as you know. Whatever's going on in our world tends to go on inside of our city as well. So it's not a surprise when you see a trend going up in the country that we suffer from that same activity. So it's our job then to become vigilant. It's our job to become innovative and try to drive that down in our jurisdiction, because that's what we're responsible for ultimately. Don't mind helping my neighbors, but I've got to look after Greenville first. So that's my charge. That being said, we implemented a program and we refer to it as 4DX. You may have heard the officers speak about it. It is basically a principle of management, the 4 disciplines of execution, the 4 disciplines that we hold ourselves to at the police department that teach us a way to manage our overall operations for effectiveness. Our officers have bought into it marvelously, and I would love to applaud them for their efforts in 2019 specifically and 2020, when we focused on property crimes as our initiative, and we just really worked on driving down to property crimes. What happens with 4DX is what needs to happen with us meaning me and you. We need to focus, right? So when we focus on a common goal, we all end up working on the common goal in a better, more achievable way. And it makes a marked improvement. So we were just really driving down the property crimes. 2020 saw the increase of some of the violent crime, specifically involving firearms. And then we changed our focus. So we got through our first year, our first 4DX goal, and we changed our focus, and Chief Holtzman set our new 4DX goal at gun violence reduction. So now what you're going to see is, it doesn't mean we can ignore property crimes, right? We've still got to focus on break-ins and car break-ins and shoplifting and things of that nature. It just means that we're going to make our primary focus on gun violence reduction. So the first thing that we want to look at is, what is it that we can do forensically? Because a lot of these cases that we get, we're not there, as you know. If they are, then we take action then. But if we get a shots fired call, for instance, and we arrive and there are shell casings, there's evidence, there's people that can be interviewed, we've really keyed the officers in on focusing on that. Collect all the evidence you can. We have technology now that helps direct us to sometimes the exact location, which not only helps us recover the forensics evidence we're looking, but also helps us knock on the right door and say, Miss Naipaul, what did you hear? Did you see anything? Did you see any people? And it's helping us to engage the community in a better, more efficient way, because we know sometimes in the past we didn't even get the phone calls. And I've heard the chief make statements before about how unfair it is for anybody to live in an area where something like that happens and then they tolerate it. So we want them to not tolerate it. We want them to call. So when you're out and you're talking to your constituents, that's the first thing we need, is we need them calling us. We need them helping us direct our officers to where things are happening so we can make a difference. So forensics, that's going to be number one. We participate with Rocky Mount Police Department in a national database referred to by its acronym as NIBIN, NIBIN. And that is the National Index of Ballistics, where agencies take information, i.e. Casings, bullet casings, and projectiles if we find them, and they're photographed with a high-power microscopic camera, and they're put into a database so that we can link weapons that have been used in various incidents. I learned just today in talking to a member of the ATF that if a forensics evidence leads you to 2 incidents that show you it was the same firearm used, there's a 50% likelihood that that same firearm will be used again in relatively the immediate area. So what happens if somebody gets their hand on a firearm and they go and they try to do everything they can with it, sometimes, not all the time, as quick as they can. And if we can link those and then say, I make an arrest on one of those cases, I may be able to link that individual back to 2 or 3 or 4 others. And it helps guide us on what do we look for when we have somebody who we're questioning as a potential person of interest, and we're doing an interrogation. Or what if we're just doing an interview on the street? What if we're doing a consensual encounter where I'm just talking to somebody? If I'm armed with this kind of information as a police officer, I may be able to get more information than I could previously. So that's something that I hope to arm the officers with. And again, some of this, as we grow, and here I am at a teaching, a learning conference where just today I learned a new tool to put in the toolbox. So we participate through NIBIN with Rocky Mount and several other agencies in the region. So we take our forensics over there. So that's number 2. We're going to collect the forensics. We're going to take it. We're going to enter it into the national database. And number 3 is going to be our customer service. So we really talk with the officers about knocking on those doors, talking to people. And when you encounter somebody, not just talking to them about the call that you're there for. So if I go to your house, Miss Bass, and you tell me that there were shots fired, I may talk to you about that call, but then I may say, well, who do you know in the area? Do we have any issues? Do we have any problems? Well, yes, I know that Ted guy down the street, he steals, mail out of the mailboxes. Oh, okay. Well, if Ted's stealing, if he's a larceny suspect, he might be another type of suspect. And it's those little links that we can make sometimes to bring resolutions to our communities that are holistic. Our job, as I see it, is to resolve those, not just the crimes, but those quality of life issues that really matter. The child who doesn't feel like they can sleep comfortable in their bed at night because of anything that's bothering them that we can affect, then we owe it to that child and to that family to make a difference. And that's what I see as service. So the next aspect would be our public service announcements. This is another area I could use a ton of your help on, because I know we all know a lot of people, and I guarantee you in your circle, you know way more people than I do. We do public service announcements through our social media on a regular basis. Can anybody tell me what the number 1 public service announcement that we have made about firearms is? And take a stab at it. If we were going to put out a public service announcement that says we need the public to do what do you think would be our number 1?
Lock your car.
Lock your car. Exactly right, Madam President. And what we find is that
leave the firearm in your car.
I love it. Don't leave your gun in there. Okay, I've got lock your car and don't leave your gun in there. Any others? The things that we go back to that are so primal, right? Like, be careful where you park. Don't leave valuables exposed, because if I leave my pocketbook sitting on the back seat, then I just invite somebody who might not otherwise have bothered my car to break in and steal my pocketbook. Well, then I left my gun in the glove box unlocked. Guess what else they've got? So what we find is that a lot of our car break-ins have firearms in them. Now, opinions aside, I think we all can sit down and have adult conversations of what we think about in terms of firearms management, who should have what. Let's just put all that aside, and let's just talk about responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership means making sure that the firearm's not accessible. Now, if it's, you're not supposed to carry it in a certain place and a person leaves it in the car, understood. What else can we do in our car? Can we install maybe a lock box? Can we put some kind of cable system in the car where the firearm could be locked up? Could we put it in the trunk compartment also locked up? Whatever, I like to call those things target hardening. So Ms. Hunter, in her public service announcements over our social media platforms, she talks about that one all the time. You remember the old commercials when I was a kid? I remember this one that said, it's 8 o'clock. Where are your kids? It's 8 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? We've even talked about something that simple, like every night at 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your valuables are? And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it might remind us, oh, you know what? I left my laptop laying on the front right passenger seat in my car in the driveway. Let me run out there and get that. Oh, and then I also left the car unlocked. What was I thinking? So that's going to be a big one for us, is helping people understand how to make themselves less of a target. And here's why. Now, these are good, responsible gun owners that we may be talking about here. And I'm not trying to cast a shadow on them, but that's one of the ways that firearms get on the street, is they're in the hands legally owned by people. And then those who aren't supposed to have them take them from those who are and use them otherwise. So locking doors, making sure that your cars, your residents, if you can afford a type of safe, if you can afford a type of locking box, even inside your home, I highly encourage that as well. That way, if there's a break-in at your home while you're not home, then you can not only just put firearms in there, valuables, cameras, jewelry, things that matter, keepsakes, all of those kind of things can go in a safe. I saved my money a long time ago when I was in college, and I purchased a really nice, I guess what you would call a vault type gun safe. And man, it's got way more in it than firearms. It's got family materials and deeds and wills and things of that nature in it. So there's a lot of other uses too. So that's the fourth piece. And then the fifth piece is always, always, always going to be our community and the relationships that we're going to make with our community. We cannot fight any instance. We can pick anything we want to. And as your police department, we cannot combat it alone. We need our citizens behind us. If anybody has any questions, if you run across anybody who wants to look at statistics, anybody that wants to look at what we do, please direct them to us. I spoke with a young man on a traffic stop the other day, and it was a really uplifting conversation. And when the conversation was over, he and I had a mutual understanding of an issue that he had. And it doesn't matter what it is. We are here to not be, we use that word, that transparency word, but that is legitimately how we feel. If somebody wants to come to see what we do, we work for you, the citizens of Greenville. Your police community relations committee is yet another link between what we do and what the citizens see that we do, or think that we do, or think that we don't do. I would greatly appreciate engagement from you all on how to better address their concerns. So as we move forward into 2021, please know that our focus is going to be on driving down gun violence, not only the shots fired in the air, but especially the people who are struck, and heaven forbid, any innocent people who find themselves caught in the middle of somebody else's quarrel. We want to address all of those and drive down our injuries, drive down our gun violence, drive down our shots fired, improve our quality of life. That is really what we're going to be focusing on as we go into 2021. And if you have any questions about it, if you have anything that I can talk to you about specifically, please seek us out. And if you have anybody out there in your districts who need questions answered, then I like to think about you as a liaison back to us. Bring us over. I don't mind. I mean, we may have to work the schedule, because the schedule gets pretty tight to get me there, or to get the chief there, or to get one of the zone commanders there. But I promise you, if you'll let me know where we need to be, one of us will be there. Sergeant Stoffelbach can attest to it. That is kind of what we do. And there's not, I don't even look at the rank in terms of that. He'll tell you I've never looked. I hope he doesn't think I've ever looked at him as less of an equal, as I have any other officer. I should be able to pick any officer in our agency and send them to a meeting and have them represent us and answer the questions that you need. So keep those things in mind for us. Those are some of our primary goals. You will notice as things progress, what are you going to see that's going to be different? You probably won't see a lot of difference, but what you will see are the zone commanders have been tasked with putting together details in their zone. They may be putting together, it could be anything. One zone commander may choose to do a DWI focus. Another zone commander might choose to address speeding in their zone, but in a area where crashes are high and where gun violence is high. Because as you know, if I'm stopping a car and my blue lights are running and there's a bad guy or girl in the neighborhood, I might change their mind while I'm there, right? So you're going to see that increase in activity. And when you see it, I want you to be able to explain it to people, what's going on. Why are they out here? What are they doing? Why do I see 2 or 3 over here? I want you to be armed and with the knowledge and the information to tell them. And anything that you need to know, I can tell you myself, Sergeant Stoffelbach, will find you the answer in terms of your committee. But nobody's off limits to you in our entire agency. You just let me know what you need and we'll do our best to make it happen. And I will be glad, Madam President, if you or anybody else has any questions, to answer whatever I can for you.
I appreciate you, Deputy Chief Sauls. And you do, you always everyone in this department always has an answer in some way. And if they don't have the answer, they seek it and find it from someone else. But we do appreciate all that you guys do. One question I do have is traffic stops. I know it's kind of a little different. Curious of maybe why there is, your focus is that being that it's just more on this gun violence reduction, being at the top and not doing as much on the traffic stop in. Is that why our numbers are going down?
That's a very good question. Thank you for bringing that one up. It actually is. You have to remember that your department is also staffed by humans, and we go through those same ups and downs where our focus changes sometimes. COVID was a big impact on traffic stops because of the interaction piece. We were never able to sideline police officers. We had to keep putting the men and women out there and exposing them. And maybe subconsciously, I'm pointing to the back brain, maybe subconsciously some slowed down on that enforcement because of that. And maybe subconsciously some slowed down out of concern for whatever was on their mind at the time in terms of what the flavor is in law enforcement. I can tell you that at our last staff meeting, we call it ComStat, where we talk about our computer-driven statistics and what's going on in our town. The chief actually, that was one of the things he charged the zone commanders with, was we need to be focusing on these areas where crashes are occurring, the speeds are too high, stop lights, stop signs are not being obeyed. Let's get out there and address those what we like to call safety violations versus, what does that mean, Ted? What that means, the difference would be like a regulatory violation might be a expired registration sticker, and the safety violation would be an excessive speed. Every one of you have driven down Evans Street, and you know that at various times of the day, we all get in a hurry, self included. If we're late for work, we're late to pick up the kids, we're late, we got to get to the grocery store to go pick up the kids, to get home to cook dinner. We've all been there, right? And the speed gets a little bit excessive. Well, in a 45 zone, excessive speed could equal 60, right? That's a very high speed for an inner city roadway. So we need to be addressing those things. I think what you will see, Madam President, is you will see those traffic stops go back up. We're talking with the men and women, and we have to have those ComStat meetings so we can see ourselves, because we get so busy in our silo each day that sometimes we don't see the total impact until a couple of weeks have gone by, and you go, wait a minute, my traffic stops fell off. What happened? Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to, if it's meaningful enforcement and you see actions that need to be taken, need you taking them. And they get the message. So I think you'll probably see that train start to turn around.
All right. I'm going to leave it to any of the other committee members if you'd like to ask any questions.
I do have one. You were talking about your focus in 2020 was to reduce property crime, and you said your program worked really well and that you had a big reduction in property crime. Could you just talk a little bit about what types of measures you took to cause that effect?
Yes, ma'am. That is an excellent catch on your behalf, because it is something we really pride ourselves on. The 4DX model, what it does is it causes all of us to pick a goal. So your goal might be, let's use the property crimes. Your goal might be to do 2 foot patrols every day at store X. I won't name any because I don't mean to cast a negative shadow on any of our businesses. But your goal might be to walk through that business 2 times a day because we've been having a lot of shoplifting there. My goal might be to patrol the parking lot of that store twice a day and look for, anybody that may be preying on the innocent. Well, in effect, what happens is we all pick a goal because we have the data in front of us that shows us where things are occurring, how we personally want to address it. So let's flip that around for gun violence. And let's say that there's a neighborhood where we've been seeing a high amount of shots fired. Your approach to that might be bicycle patrol for 15 minutes a day in that particular area. My approach may be, I like to walk and talk. I love talking to people. My approach might be, my goal might be to knock on every door in that neighborhood, one door at a time until I've got them all and I have spoken to everybody in the neighborhood. The third officer, their goal might be educating the children and getting out with them at the bus stop. Each person has a different individual goal that focuses back on the major goal, which is driving it down. When we did that with property crimes, we saw tremendous benefits. I'm confident we can do it with our gun violence.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments or concerns?
If nobody does, Madam President, let me just say to the group that I hope most of you who have worked with me over the years know it. I don't really say things just to say them. I meant what I said. I long to see you all again in person. I really appreciate you keeping things going. I really appreciate our staff for what they've been doing on the backside to help. And we will continue to do that. We actually met just the other day as a group just to talk about what we can do to better help. And we're here for you. You just let us know what you need. And any of you that are on this committee, if there's something that you specifically want to hear us talk about, especially when it works on this type of forum, that'd be great. I just hope that when we get back to in person, we can go back to having a plethora of members of our community show up. I really like being in that room with 50 or 60 people where we can engage. So hang in there with us. Don't give up on what you're doing. You're doing an awesome job, and we will hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Debbie.
you.
We appreciate you. We do. Thank you.
Thank you, each and every one. And if you are okay with it, Madam President, I'm going to log off.
That sounds wonderful. You get out of that closet. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of your training.
Thank you all.
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions or concerns?
No, we lost a couple of people along the way.
There's that, Betsy?
I said we lost a couple of people from the Zoom meeting. See,
Oh, who did we lose?
well, Keith Flex, he tried to get on.
I did see that.
There's Lewis. Lewis, we couldn't see you for a while. And then just the one other gentleman. It was on in the beginning. I just wonder if maybe our connection is
I'm not sure.
misbehaving or something.
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
oh, yeah, this is Kivion Gano. I'm still here. I just had the microphone
There
off.
he is too. Okay,
All
gotcha.
right. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, and welcome, new member.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We're happy to have you.
We are.
Miss Nepal, do you have anything?
No questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Betsy Ray, do you have anything else to add?
All right.
Not that I could think of. That was a good meeting tonight.
Yes, ma'am, it was. Mr. Flex, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm fine. Thank you though.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Warren, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Mr. Cherry?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'd like to first acknowledge this week being National Police Week. So Sergeant Stoffenbach, to you, and I wish I could have relayed this to Deputy Chief Sauls. Thank you, as well as the rest of the men and women of the Greenville Police Department for your service to the citizens of Greenville, North Carolina. I am pleased by much of what I've seen from the department as of late, specifically as it relates to Officer Zayden, who responded to a citizen in crisis which I believe was suicidal in nature. And she was able to achieve, a positive outcome with the aid of the mobile crisis unit. So I understand the impact of that partnership and the strides that have already been made, and look forward to that continuing as that partnership grows. Also, I'd like to highlight Officer Williams, who recently responded and provided athletic equipment to a group of kids. And that's something to be applauded, and it speaks to the impact that can be had through community policing. At the same time, do have some concerns, and Deputy Chief Sauls mentioned that as it relates to traffic, and just seeing the number of traffic collisions we are having at intersections throughout the city, causing lanes to be shut down and detours, and the impact that has on our citizens as they commute to and from work, school, as well as other activities. Would also note a number of hit and run incidents that seem to be on the rise within the city. So I look forward to that model as it was exercised through the property crime scenario being implemented, and seeing some positive outcomes as it relates to traffic.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Caroline. So you bring up a really good point. I may reach out to one of our guys or girls that work in the traffic safety unit, and maybe that's something we can schedule in the upcoming months. I know we take a break July and August, but that's something that maybe in the fall I can reach out and have them do a little presentation. So thank you, Mr. Cherry. Mr. Phillips, do you just anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One of the things that we're looking at, we're always looking to try to improve on our it's a very short bylaws, but we're trying to improve on that. And so we're looking at regarding the time to receive the meeting packets. We're looking at, and the advertising of the meetings, we're looking at modifying that to be better in compliance with I guess the law and reality, for lack of better words, because, for example, it says that in your bylaws, it says that the notice of regularly scheduled meeting with the location and time shall be placed in the city page not less than 10 calendar days prior to the regular PCRC meeting, and repeated not less than the next printing of the city page in the Daily Reflector. Well, if you actually utilize that, that would require essentially a 3 weeks notice for every meeting. And sometimes you have a meeting, or previously you've had a meeting, and in-person meetings may be at various locations across the city, which you may not know until sooner than 3 weeks. So one of the things that we're looking to do is possibly improve on that portion of the bylaws, which we'll be trying to get back before you for a more in-depth discussion a little bit later. But otherwise, I mean, certainly if you see other portions of the bylaws that you believe need to be improved upon, certainly bring those to my attention, and we'll make those adjustments. But that's all that I had.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
One of the meetings, maybe 2 or 3 back, there was the thought, I've forgotten who put it forward, that we try to pull people into our Zoom meetings, the public. How would that logistically work?
Yeah, so from my standpoint, these meetings should be open to the public, and
In terms of notification or providing them with the link, the mechanics of it.
those that's handled through our city clerk's office in conjunction with city staff to make sure that those links are provided on the city's website. And
in the newspaper as well?
I'm not sure if the links of any city meetings are in the newspaper. They may be, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I know that and you got to keep in mind that the COVID and the remote meetings has really changed things. But yeah, those are all parts that the commission can improve upon to make sure that the public is aware of these meetings to the extent they can be, given the fact that they're on a remote platform. So.
Right. So Betsy, it would be one of those, like, whenever we get the link to the Zoom, it would be something that we would be able to share that link through the next door, through neighborhood pages, things like that. Am I correct, Donald Phillips?
Well,
Yeah, I think you can, but I mean, those,
there's kind of like a patchwork. You know, they're not really like the city page or like the Daily Reflector. It would be kind of incumbent upon each of us who may have a distribution list. We happen to have one because my husband sends out the all of the information from our neighborhood association. He doesn't create it. He's just the vector for it. Our president, Diane Kulik, gives us, you know, notices and things, and we send it out. So I certainly could do that to about 300 people. But there are more that are, what was the Carol Ann you were saying, what now?
The city, we do the next door.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah, next.
But it's one of those with, you know, you can do different things on that next door.
Are you on that one?
I haven't used it in a long time, but that's how I used to always send out for these meetings when we were having them in person. I would always make sure I put it on the next door and got as many areas that I possibly could. And then
did you ever do it on the Lynn Gray bed chest? That too.
And that's I mean, that's 1,000 people on that one. So that's just one little residential area with 1,000 people, you know. And then I would always get on Monday nights, I would always have, when they had city council meetings, whoever, I would randomly, one month it would be PJ or one month it'd be Will, but I would text them right before the meeting and I would be like, hey, can you announce tonight that we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow night, you know, and what the location was and all of that. So.
Well, that worked really well when we were meeting in person.
Correct.
But those actual final Zoom link that we get, sometimes it's kind of close to meeting time.
And I take full responsibility for that. So that is something that, you know, that is on me, Betsy. And
I wasn't trying to blame you. I'm just trying to figure out
I want, yeah, it is definitely, you know, I own that. So it is something that needs to happen, as Mr. Phillips said, way in advance.
I think if we had a week ahead, you know, maybe that we could put that link out. We might have a chance of people joining us on this remote. But on the other hand, I wonder, does anybody optimistically have a sense or feel for when we actually will meet in person? How would we go? How would we say, okay, we can do that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
We have to get proof of vaccination before they walk in the door, or, you know.
And then, you know, it's kind of those that, yeah.
Okay. Is that it, Miss Betsy Ray?
Yeah, I mean, like we just have been talking about, we're in times like no other.
We really are.
Yep, you're right. Miss Viverette, do you have anything?
No, sir, no.
Okay.
We appreciate Ms. Viverette.
All right. Nobody has anything.
If no one else has anything, I need a motion to adjourn. Am I correct, Mr. Phillips?
That is correct. And Mr. Gaynor, if you're available by visual, this will help on the next matter. If not, when you go to vote, you'll have to state your name and then say that you yay or nay. And the reason for that is the session law that allows remote meetings. If the member cannot be visually seen, cannot be seen at the same time that they're heard, they have to announce their name and then vote. So when we have this vote on the motion to adjourn, when it comes time for your name, if you could just announce your name and then say either yay or nay. And that's only because we can't see you right now. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That is moved by Ms. Ray. Is there a second?
Yes, Ms. Nightfall, second.
Second by Ms. Nightfall, and we will proceed to roll call vote on the motion to adjourn. Is there any debate or discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Gaynor.
Yes, sir.
So you would just say Kevon Gaynor, and I either say yay or nay.
Keon Gaynor, nay.
Nay, okay. And so you're voting to not adjourn. So you,
Correct.
okay. Ms. Naipaul,
Yes,
okay. Mr. King, Mr. Cherry,
Yay.
Ms. Bass,
Yay.
Mr. Warren,
Yay. I was on
and
mute.
Miss Ray.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, by a vote of 5-4, we stand adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
thank you.
5-4, 5-1.
5-1. I'm sorry. Did I say 5-4? 5-1. Sorry.
I did that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.